Welcome to the next instalment of our Moroccan adventure. We are in the beautiful seaside resort of Essaouira.
And over the next few minutes, we're going to show you why this could be one of the items on your list of places to visit when you come to Morocco. I'm John.
And I'm Lou of Independent Travel Reviews. Once the largest port in Morocco, Essaouira is now a laid-back and charming seaside city on Morocco's Atlantic coast. Over the next few minutes, we're going to give you 10 ideas which will help you get the best from your time in Essaouira. It's a relaxed Moroccan town, but there are plenty of activities in Essaouira to balance chilling out with an adrenaline hit. Its beautiful beaches are ideal for walking in the year-round sunshine. However, the almost constant winds from the northeast also fuel activities such as kite and windsurfing.
You can ride camels, horses and quad bikes on the wide flat sands, and of course its lovely walled Medina with lanes open to the sunshine is home to many shops, restaurants and riads, plus hundreds of well kept and well behaved cats and kittens for which it's renowned. It lies 120 kilometres north of better known but busier Agadir and 180 kilometres west of bustling Marrakesh. So if we had 2 or 3 days here, what would we want to do to make the most of our time and budget? Here are 10 great things to do in Essaouira.
Firstly, we'd stay in a riad or dar in the Medina. We stayed in Riad Borj El Baroud, which was just a couple of minutes from one of the main gates into the southern end of the Medina, which was convenient for the Medina and also the beach. Being close to one of the gates is possibly a better option because you don't have to carry your luggage through the Medina's streets that way. If you do need assistance though, there are porters with trolleys on hand to help.
Strolling the streets of the Medina looking for local crafts is a real joy in Essaouira. The lanes are mostly open to the elements and wider than some Medinas, giving a nice feel, and you are mostly protected from the wind here. Prices seem to be quite competitive compared to Marrakesh.
So you said 100, but then I said maybe 80? 80. Okay, we agree on 80, yeah? 80. Okay. Thank you.
Eat in one of the family-run cafes and restaurants down the narrow side alleys in the Medina. There's a good choice of eateries, mostly offering Moroccan cuisine including inevitable tagines and couscous, but they are also keen to serve up some of the locally caught seafood. If you've not had a tagine before, then it's well worth giving it a try. Tagine dishes are slow-cooked, savoury stews, typically made with sliced meat, poultry or fish, together with vegetables or fruit. Spices, nuts and dried fruits are often used too. We also saw plenty of traditional Western options, including burgers and Oriental food. The French influence is still strong in Morocco, and the crepes from the street vendors were absolutely delicious.
The Medina, or Old Town, is protected by 18th century seafront ramparts called the Scala de la Casbah, which were designed by European engineers. Old brass cannons line the walls, and there are great ocean views. The town was used in the filming of Game of Thrones as the home of the Army of the Unsullied. The scene of the rows of crucified slaves were actually props to cover the cannons. There are plenty of sunny days here, and watching the sun set from the ramparts is a great way to start your evening. Watch the end of this video for a great sunset replay.
The beaches to both the north and south of the town are beautiful. The one to the north is quite isolated and sits at the end of an area of town typically not frequented by tourists, so you might feel like avoiding it. However, the beach to the south is massive. It stretches over 2 kilometres to a headland and then a further 3 kilometres beyond that. There are busy parts where you can ride horses, quad bikes and camels. This is where you can take part in or watch windsurfing and kite surfing, or just chill at one of the cafes backing onto the beach. Walking along the beach is a real pleasure. Just be aware that the prevailing northerly wind makes the return trip feel slower and a lot cooler than the outbound leg.
Visit the ruins of Dar Sultan Palace and then the cafe Jimi Hendrix on the edge of Diabat. We'll be honest, you'll see more attractive and interesting ruins and sights in Morocco, but this gives a good purpose to your beach walk. Don't get too excited about the cafe. Its links to Jimi Hendrix are tenuous. For example, evidence that he actually visited Diabat is hard to find, and you're not going to leave raving about the food, drinks, or indeed the decor, but it's a great example of a bit of entrepreneurship which has to be admired. You can avoid getting blasted by the northerly winds on the return to Essaouira by then doing activity number 7.
Take a ride in one of the Petit Taxis. These little blue taxis with white roofs, typically Dacia Sonderos, buzz round town and charge a flat fare of only 8 dirhams, that's 80 cents, for any ride within the city limits. If you walk from the Jimi Hendrix cafe over the bridge from Diabat to Essaouira, then you should get a Petit Taxi the other side of the bridge. There are plenty of them around the town as well.
Make sure that you go to the end of the main street called Avenue Mohammed Zektouni, where the local market stalls are located. Here you'll find fruits, vegetables, spices and nuts for sale, targeted at the local rather than the tourist market. Walk out of the gate at the end and you'll find horses and carts, which are a mode of transport still used by locals as well as being an optional tourist ride.
Walk the pretty promenade at night. The promenade that runs beside the southern beach is lit up at night and backed by cafes and restaurants. It's well worth a visit, and join the locals as they carry out a traditional Arabic pastime of strolling along the Corniche at night.
Visiting the pretty harbour and seeing the traditional blue fishing boats is a classic memory to take away from any visit to Essaouira. These boats are painted blue as a reminder of the blue dye that was harvested from shellfish on nearby islands. Visit the harbour during the day to get the full feel for the pretty colours on display.
Bonus: if you are an animal lover, enjoy the many friendly and gorgeous cats and kittens which inhabit the Medina. The cats inside the Medina are looked after by the locals, and they seem to be looked after really well. However, the cats outside the Medina, just outside the walls, might not be in such great condition. We found a group of abandoned kittens just outside the Medina walls. Most of the tourists were making an effort to look after them, and some of the locals themselves. But there is a charity that you can call that will then help out. The details are on the screen.
You'll probably read about tree climbing goats around Essaouira. They love the nuts from the argan trees, which are grown locally to harvest for argan oil. Now, we cover argan oil in our Fez video, but allegedly some of the tours into the region around Essaouira will take you to hunt out the tree climbing goats. Feel free to share in the comments if you actually see one.
Essaouira is a real gem. It typically takes some effort to visit, but we think it's worth it. Whilst there are some direct flights from Europe, most visitors arrive there from Marrakesh, Agadir or Casablanca by comfortable air-conditioned coach. It offers something different, and whether you're there for the adrenaline of the water sports or just because you're seeking refuge from the more hectic aspects of this fascinating country, we don't think you'll regret making the journey.
So there are a couple of things that have surprised us about Essaouira. One of them is just how windy it is. So it's a bit of a kite surfing and windsurfing mecca, and the wind does make it feel quite a bit cooler than the weather forecast might suggest, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's true. I bought shorts and t-shirts to wear here because it was supposed to be about 25 degrees, and I thought, well, I could probably get away with it here because it's a touristy spot. But I've been in jeans and long sleeve t-shirts the whole time because although it's 25, with that wind that blows all the time, it's got a real feel of about 18, and at night it is really chilly. So we're in April. I wish I'd bought a few sweatshirts.
But it is a really, really lovely place. I think we've been really impressed with Essaouira, haven't we? It's big enough to give you lots of variety, things to do, but it's also small enough that it's got a lovely kind of quaint feel to it, hasn't it?
Yeah, really good.